Hello there. So, there are so many metal bands out there, more than I can even count. As a rough estimate, I would say there's probably at least 16. And as a result, that means there are loads of albums too. So that got me thinking, which of these albums is viewed as the best? Yes, I know that art is subjective and everyone has their own opinions, but that doesn't mean that over time a general consensus doesn't form around which albums are widely viewed as timeless classics. So today, I thought it could be a fun and informative exercise to compile a list of 20 albums that are widely considered to be 10 out of 10s. For this list, I set myself 3 criteria. Very much looking forward to the comment section on this video, so please do leave your input down below telling me what you thought of my list and which 10 out of 10s you think I left out. But before we hop into it, a quick word from the sponsor of today's video. Are you sick of this happening to you? Well, perhaps it's about time you went wireless. And thankfully for you, the wonderful people over at Shure have very recently released this absolute beast. Introducing the Shure GLX D16 Plus. The GLX D16 Plus is the ultimate solution for guitarists wanting an accessible but pro-level wireless unit. It features pioneering dual-band technology that seamlessly and automatically switches between 2.4 and 5.8 GHz to ensure that you never experience dropouts. My personal favorite feature, however, is that instead of the wireless receiver being some chunky old thing you stick on top of your amp, it instead doubles up as a tuning pedal that lives with you up front on stage. How sick is that? Not to mention, it features dedicated rechargeable batteries with up to 12 hours of runtime. And unlike other wireless systems out there that feel a bit flimsy and vulnerable, this thing is built like a freaking tank! So if you're like me and you like gear that you could just plug in and play with very minimal faffing around and get amazing results, then the Shure GLX D16 Plus is the wireless solution for you. Thanks very much, guys. Please do check out the link in the description down below to find out more. One of the definitive metal albums featuring some of the greatest guitar work ever recorded. The only problem with this album is that after listening to it, you get put under the false impression that Megadeth are actually a sick band and that this album wasn't just an insane fluke. So before Behemoth became death metal's answer to Spinal Tap, they released this astonishingly brutal, Middle Eastern tinged riff fest that would cause your poor Nana to throw herself down the stairs in horror. Though for some reason, they multi-tracked all of Nurgle's vocals on this album, so he ends up sounding like one of those unhinged dogs your psycho neighbor keeps that has to be muzzled in public or else it'll bite the face off a poor child. The album where Iron Maiden finally stopped being a corny Nwabban pub band and made a power metal concept album about a medieval boy born with supernatural powers, full of hideous guitar synth. I'm not very good at selling things, but trust me, it's really quite good.
Circle of fire, my baptism of joy, and an end it seems. Is it me or is it shadows that are dancing on the wall?
Probably the greatest album about a fish fetish ever recorded. Leviathan is the sonic representation of rimming a really janky can of tuna. And I will die on the hill that no other metal album ever recorded has so many god tier riffs in. This album, Surge sounds exactly like that impression your mother does when she says that all metal just sounds like a bunch of meaningless shouting. To be fair, it does, but at least System of a Down sound funny while doing it. But I digress. This album is definitely the greatest thing to come out of that whole Kerrang classic era.
A bit late, she had so many friends.
Now, I was adamant that I wouldn't include any newer albums on this list, but Master of Puppets, the soundtrack to the hit TV show Stranger Things Season 4, is too good to exclude. It was also the last Metallica album to feature the real Kirk Hammett, before he was switched out with an identical, less talented doppelganger.
You will do what I say when I say back to the front.
In terms of traditional straight-up metal, Painkiller is about as peak and unashamed as it gets. Manowar aside. Painkiller is the soundtrack to a bunch of 40-year-old, denim-clad virgins beating up a defenseless 16-year-old Polyphia fan. More like vulgar display of sort that bloody guitar tone out, am I right? Seriously though, that album cover is the visual representation of what listening to this album with cheap headphones does to your poor, unsuspecting eardrums. But still, an absolutely smashing array of ditties on display here. Quite possibly the only album the black metal genre has ever produced that can quite comfortably sit alongside the other classic albums on this list. Which is quite impressive considering the fact it's pretty much just 50 minutes of a man gargling semen. But memes aside, Emperor proved that great songwriting and sophisticated guitar parts can indeed belong in black metal. So damn ahead of its time. It sounds like a really mid-metalcore band from 2010 travelled back in time to 1995 to make it. Though I'm still convinced that whoever decided to put fucking papyrus font on the album cover did it as some sort of sick revenge prank, and that it wasn't actually an informed professional decision. This album is what happens when you give a bunch of meathead musical prodigies free reign over a studio and a buttload of cash. An absolute glorious mess of an album that somehow ends up being just as experimental as it is poppy. Make you feel bad that Trivium were still in their fucking teens when they wrote the best melodic metalcore album of all time? Good, it should do. Now pull your finger out and get practicing after watching this video. It's been such a long time now since Opeth turned into a self-indulgent snooze fest that it's very easy to forget that they once used to be unmatched, boundary-pushing trailblazers, peaking with this super dark, part concept album Ghost Reveries, all about Casper the Friendly Ghost and his harrowing struggle with fentanyl addiction. An album so damn immersive, it's basically like a musical fleshlight for your ears. Ugh. The new edition of keyboard wizard Jordan Rudess really helped bring the band's music to a whole new level, instead of the hilariously plinky plonky keys playing that plagued the band's earlier albums.
This feeling inside me. Safe in the light that surrounds me.
A real genre-mashing album that somehow manages to be just as catchy and accessible as it is crushingly heavy. It's like if you took a death metal band but removed the brutality and the gore and replaced it with like a discount Tim Burton Baby's My First Goth aesthetic. Now this may come as a shock to some of you, but guitar personality and Twitch streamer Herman Lee is in fact in a band that has written some of the best power metal of all time. This album has it all. Songs about flying far away, songs about flying even further away.
In the land of a thousand souls, we will carry on through the rain.
Yes, I know what you're probably thinking. Isn't that the album with that fucking Crazy Train song on? Yes, it is, but it's also the album with the masterpiece Mr. Crowley on. An ode to everybody's favourite heroin addict. It's also nice to cherish those early Aussie years before he started sounding like some weird AI-generated version of himself. Time where alternative music was actually getting a lot of mainstream attention, what did Symphony X decide to do? Of course, they decided to write a progressive power metal album centered around a 24-minute epic song based upon the adventures of the Greek king Odysseus, featuring blistering solos and more time changes than a plane flying really, really fast around the world.
The endless night, in the moonlight we're together. On the field with sword and shield amidst the king. Triumphant, champion of Ithaca.
The album that every aspiring, gent-loving bedroom musician cries himself to sleep every night wishing they'd written. Wrote? Written. Catch 33 is a chilling, non-stop descent into madness, or boring, pretentious dirge, depending on who you ask. Are you dead yet? Well, you will be after listening to this album, but you know, like the good type of dead, because it'll melt your face from how good it is, which will consequently cause you to pass away. Now, most die-hard fans seem to prefer the earlier albums, where they were basically just like a black metal Yngwie Malmsteen. But Are You Dead Yet feels like a culmination of everything the band had worked towards up until that point, and given a more up-to-date sound.